Welcome back to the Relationships Made Simple for Men podcast with me, Bryce Bauer. My mission is to help men become more relationally informed. This project really matters to me because if we as men can wake up and become better leaders in our marriages, families, and communities, we can change the world for the better. And I'm going to be honest that I have a bias here. When I look objectively at all the really bad things that have happened in the world, I see men who weren't able to deal with their emotional experience, which has led to miscommunications, which has led to battles, which has led to wars. For most of human history, men have been in leadership positions most of the time. But even on a smaller scale, in family systems, I see so many men that are just winging it. They have bad information. They've been given guidance by other men who also don't know what they're talking about. So I think we need to humble ourselves and become good students before we can become good leaders. So, you know me, I like to get right into it. Today, we're going to be talking about how to fix your attitude. This is such a huge part of our relational experience, how we feel day to day and how we show up. You've probably been here before with someone. You're wanting to accomplish something or have fun or just hang out. And if someone's in a shitty mood, it's hard to have a good time. It's hard to feel supported. It's hard to feel connected if they're pouty, complaining, or taking on this victim mentality. And that is you sometimes. I'm not saying that we need to be in a positive mood all the time, but we can show up much better. And I will put forward a thought experiment to illustrate this. If I told you that I would give you $1 million if for the next 24 hours you could have a good attitude, you would be collaborative with your partner, you would listen to them, validate them, speak vulnerably about your own experience, and really just stay engaged in the relational process, I guarantee you, even if you don't totally know what I'm talking about, your attitude would change dramatically. And if that's true, what does this say about our potential? When I put something really valuable in front of you, like $1 million, if that aligns with you, you will put energy and intention into aligning with that value because you're aspiring to achieve something. And if you don't achieve it, there's a huge loss there. Losing $1 million, basically. It's high stakes, high reward. Now, no one is probably going to come along and offer you $1 million to do this. But what this thought experiment can do for you is highlight how much you really care. If you don't really value your marriage, then you're not going to invest much into it. And I think a lot of men do this subconsciously. We got married. Okay, we're hopefully going to be here for life and just let's go on autopilot. And when conflict comes up or big feelings come up, because you haven't taken the commitment that seriously, you might be reluctant to invest into it. You're living in a fantasy that this should be easy. You didn't sign up for this to be difficult. And part of that is because you were ignorant. A lot of people don't know going into a marriage just how challenging it can be, how confronting it can be. And I feel for people because no one told me. I mean, I'd hear that marriage is hard, blah, 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 but no one really told me specifically why it was going to be hard. Sure, the courting process is fun and maybe engagement, marriage, honeymoon, all great. But what about when something happens that is totally unexpected? Your partner catches you watching porn and isn't happy about it. You have some financial stress and you're trying to figure out how to allocate resources. You have two different opinions. Or you have a child that acts like a maniac on occasions, which is pretty normal for a lot of kids. You weren't prepared for that. And I get that you can't really be prepared for something you've never experienced, but how many hours did you spend in any type of classroom learning about what's going to happen, how it might feel, and how to deal with it? For most men, that was 0 hours. And instead, you were told things like, don't ever go to bed angry, or happy wife, happy life. You just got to put your head down and get through it. Basically, what a lot of men were told was to sweep their feelings under the rug and pretend like everything's okay. But you can only do that for so long before it starts to bubble up and fester, and you begin to either explode or shut down or both. And all that emotional charge stays with you if it isn't processed, and it impacts your attitude. And I personally don't know a better way to deal with this than to confront it head on. There's essentially two pieces to fixing your attitude, and they are mutually supportive because what's happening in the now is a result of what's happened in the past. And what's happened in the past will highlight why you are behaving the way you are in the present. So, one, you do have to go back into your past and look for ways that you've been wounded and strategize to protect yourself. Really getting honest about your relationship to your parents, learning how to hold space for big events in your life, and also learning how to soothe those parts of you that didn't get what they needed, because those parts are still here. And then in the present, we want to pay more and more attention to how we're showing up, to notice when we're avoiding and blaming, shutting down, and to have awareness of how that's impacting others, specifically our partner. And although we might feel embarrassed or ashamed or frustrated by how we're showing up, the process of having compassion for them and compassion for ourselves is what is going to allow you to heal and for both of you to heal the hurts in the relationship. And I'll give you an example from my own life so that you can understand. There are some parts of me that are still very much in process, and others that I think I have mastered to a pretty high degree, mostly because I got my ass kicked enough by myself, really. And then the pain that I'd experienced in the relationship and the hurt that I would see that I was causing Jenny, that these are some things that I really wanted to get a handle on. So one big thing was my tendency to avoid. In past relationships, when I felt like we weren't going to be able to resolve conflict, what I wanted to do was get away, escape, take care of myself, do something fun. And what this could look like in the house was just me walking away and not saying anything. And the old me, like 10 years ago, would have said, well, at least you're not saying anything mean. You're containing yourself. So it's not too bad. It's not the best move, I guess, but it's definitely not the worst move. But after going through a few rounds of this with Jenny, she let me know that this really didn't work for her and that she can't trust being with me if she doesn't know if I'm even going to physically or emotionally be there when things come up. And she was really right about that. It is hard to trust someone when they leave and you're not sure if they're going to come back. Our nervous system can't trust that. In my head, I was thinking, okay, I will eventually come back. But she didn't know that because I wasn't communicating it. And looking back into my history, I could see how when my dad got really angry, I just want to go hide. And it didn't happen that often, but it scared me enough that I developed that strategy. If the big people are upset, and sometimes I'd see other big people be upset, I needed to get out of there as quickly as possible. That was my defense strategy. And then emotionally, when the younger boys on the playground would get pretty aggressive or mean, I would just get really stoic and shut down my emotions and just try to look strong or unbothered by their aggression. And so even though Jenny wasn't threatening me, that's exactly how I would respond. I would shut down emotionally, go still face, stoic, maybe try to talk it out a little bit. And then if it wasn't working, I'd leave. And the less informed version of me thought that this shouldn't be too much of an issue for Jenny. And if it is, that's her problem. I'll just do what I do, go self-focused. Hopefully you can go self-focused and then we'll come back together later. But that is not how high functioning, secure relationships work. And now today, I'm proud to say that I don't do that. I don't do that physically. I sometimes do it some emotionally, and I'm still working on that, but I stay in conversation. And because we've had this pattern, I'm the one who's taken on more of the responsibility to come back after we've had a break. That's the move that creates more balance in our relationship. And our relationship is not like everyone else's. And I find that if you have more of an avoidant and anxious attachment style, the avoidant has to lean in more and the anxious has to sit back more and try to trust that and trust themselves. So, going back to the attitude piece, my homework for you would be to sit down and reflect on how you think you show up in the relationship, and specifically how you think your partner sees you. And this is important because sometimes we only want to think about how we see ourselves. That's just one perspective, and we can only see so much. What do you think your partner sees? How do you think your partner feels with you? Do you think that they feel supported, emotionally supported by you? Why or why not? That's an important question to ask. Does my partner feel like I care about the things that they care about, even if they're not as interesting to me? Do I show interest in them? Do they feel cared about in that way? Has my partner asked anything of me that I haven't followed up on or taken initiative on? This is really crazy. Sometimes I work with men and their wives have been asking for the same simple thing for years and they just drug their feet. Probably the most common thing that men are asked to do and they drag their feet on is to go get support, to get some help from a professional. I've heard men say, yeah, my wife has been asking me to get help. And I'm like, for how long? And then they're like, well, probably for the last 5 years or so. I mean, she's mentioned it every few months. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why do you feel so resistant to do this? I mean, I get it. If there's some big ask of you to have another child or move or change jobs, I mean, those are pretty high stakes. But to just set up a few hours of conversation with somebody to try to work out some of your stuff, I just don't get it. And it highlights just how little hope I think men have for being helped and how little they value emotional relational development. But this can have a huge impact on our partners. It's like if you were both rowing a boat, which is a good analogy for relationships. You have to be in sync. You both have to know what you're doing and where you're going. So she's over there trying her best to row, getting support, guidance, coaching, whatever it is. And you're sitting over there saying, I'm not really willing to do anything about this. So I guess we'll just keep going in circles. I'm not trying to be funny. Sometimes it's that obvious. So you even showing openness and taking initiative to do something. Listen to podcasts like you are now, setting intentions to improve your attitude or understand some of your strategies. Read books, join a men's group, go to therapy or coaching. It usually doesn't take that much to show that you're invested. And it's probably worth noting because I think a lot of men just underestimate what the work actually looks like and how long it takes. This process can take years to master some of the skills you need to learn. There's actually a men's coach out there that I think I'm friends with him on Facebook, or I read something he wrote recently, and he said when people sign up to work with him, he will ask them if they're willing to commit to 5 years. And if they say no, he won't work with them. Now, I don't know if he actually really requires people to work with him for 5 years, but it's a way to probably vet how invested some of these men are in developing themselves emotionally and relationally. I mean, I don't have a requirement like that, but I do like to tell guys who are newer to this work that, yeah, this is going to take years, whether it's with me or somebody else. It's going to take consistent effort and accountability. And it's really just the same as anything else that you want to get good at. Think about going to get a bachelor's degree in anything. That's 4 years. How many years did it take you to get good at your job? Thousands of hours. I don't want men to have a fantasy that if they go to therapy once or read a book or just try a little bit harder this week, that's going to radically change their relationship. That's a start. And hopefully your partner will see that. They'll see where you're putting your attention and your energy. And the good news is you'll often make a lot of progress really quickly when you go from being a beginner to diving head on into learning. So you can see results fairly quickly. And this is more of a lifestyle commitment than it is just learning to swing a hammer or ride a bike. So if there's one thing that I can drill into your head, it is check your attitude. If you are in a committed long-term relationship, you two are on an island together. You are drifting in the sea alone, and you want to have someone in that boat with you that has your back and that's going to lift you up when you're feeling down, who's going to help you feel secure when you feel scared or insecure. And one of the best ways to get what you want in a relationship is to start to model the thing that you want. You can't ask something of your partner that you aren't willing to give to them. So it's worth letting go of the petty shit and just showing up. And if she can't show up in the way that you want, and you feel like you've really given 110%, maybe you do let that relationship go, but at least you're going to feel good about the effort that you put in and the attitude that you showed up with. That's how I look at my relationship. And I feel really grateful that Jenny has shown up too. And I think this is one of the most effective things you can do is check your attitude and inspire yourself and your partner. That's all I have for today. If you want more info on working with us, we have a lot of different options. We're even creating more in-person options in St. George, Utah. So I'll put some of those links in the description. I'll see you next week.